Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Launchpad. My name is Savannah, and today I'm joined with Justin J. So, how are you today, Justin?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Of course, we're so excited that you're here. All right, well, let's just go ahead and dive in. So, can you tell us a little bit about the beginning of your career? Like, how was the transition from producing music in your college dorm room to working with big labels such as Dirty Bird?
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal because I was just such a big fan of house music and techno and never thought that it could be a career, let alone something that I could do outside of DJing, like a house party or a college party. But I was just so passionate about making music. And I had in high school, I had a friend who would send his music out to DJs and labels through SoundCloud. And so I started doing that and, sent all these songs and never heard back. And then one day I heard back from literally one of my favorite artists, Claude VonStroke, and
Mhm.
got signed to his label, Dirtybird. And that sort of began my career. And yeah, it's just been surreal. And that it's crazy because that was a little over 10 years ago. And yeah, I feel like it's just so crazy because I still feel like I get to have the most fun ever making music and DJing. Um, just over this weekend, I DJ'd three very different shows in the Midwest in the US. And the week before, I was in Croatia. Had never been to Croatia before. And to, yeah, I feel like I'm still just like having so much fun DJing and it's crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a wild ride.
hmm
But so you recently did release two new songs, Walk Away and You're Fake. So, and there's sneak peeks into your upcoming album, You Are the One, which is set to be released at the end of the summer. So, can you share more about your creative process and the significance behind this album?
Totally. So, where to begin? I think one thing that's kind of funny is, I went from playing Croatia, which is like I played a festival called Terminal V, and it's all very cool European techno artists and, you know, very just cool tastemaker people like Kedema and Mall Grab, stuff like that. And then to go from there to DJing like a dubstep festival called Base Camp with like Zed's Dead
Mhm.
and What So Not.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like pretty much my entire career, I've always been really obsessed with underground dance music that I'm discovering online that's maybe a bit more popular in Europe. And I feel like this album is kind of just a continuation of that, where it's me being inspired by, you know, things like trance and UKG and, uh, you know, hard groove and techno, and then blending it together with, my love for singing and writing songs. And it's interesting because I feel like there's also a big touch of inspiration that's come from me spending most of the past year living in Boulder, Colorado, and being subjected to more bass music and dubstep than I ever have. And I just feel like I'm in such an interesting place where for most of my career, I would play like, more underground European dance music and try to trick American people to giving it a chance. And
Hmm.
going out there now, I'm like trying to sneak in dubstep and trick like the purest European techno snobs to, you know, get down to some like American bass music. And it's just so fun. I feel like that embodies a good chunk of this album where it's just about not trying to put things in a box, but rather bring things together and blur the lines, whether it's underground dance music in Europe, American dance music influences like bass music or even like EDM, or just like my love for singing and songwriting, just trying to bring it all together.
Hmm. Yeah. So, along the lines of the singing and songwriting, is that something that you kind of like always wanted to do? Did you see yourself being a singer and then like just dance music kind of took over and you figured out a way to kind of bring them together?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a singer, but I never could. I never gave it a try. And then I learned about auto tune. And yeah, in all seriousness, one of my good friends in college was such a talented singer-songwriter. And he kind of like opened my eyes to what it actually means to write a song and to express yourself in that way. And it just hit so deep for me. And this friend of mine, his name's Josh Taylor. He's actually the singer on the next single on my album called I Can't Read Your Mind.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And it's just so crazy because yeah, we started making music together our last semester of our senior year in college. And many of those songs are still, you know, sort of, I don't know, just songs that I really love and that have, it seems like have really resonated with people. And this is our first time in many years releasing a new collaborative song. And it's kind of crazy. Part of it is because during the pandemic, he uh, ended up going back to law school because music stuff was just all on pause. And now he's a lawyer, but he's still so talented and it's crazy. And we wrote the song together maybe 2 years ago around Lollapalooza, actually. I was performing that year. And so it's kind of crazy to be talking about this with you while you're there.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I've actually never been. This is my first year.
Let's go. So fun.
But so obviously you're known for defying genres as you're talking about in your new album. You're not trying to be put into a box and you incorporate elements of like house and techno based UKG. So can you tell me about like what led you to explore multiple genres and like what are some limitations and opportunities you've experienced through this approach?
Yeah. I feel like my entire career, I've always just gotten bored easily. And so, when, I would release a song and it would do well, I would be very curious to try things that are completely different just because I'm like, all right, I did that. Let me try something new. And I think such a big part of making music for me is just, discovering new things and being inspired by them and then taking them in. And not, I feel like so many artists fall victim to this feeling of like, oh, I need to build a brand or have a sound. And then they get excited about something and then they start censoring themselves and saying, no, I can't do that because that's not my brand or my sound. And I feel like for me it's just about chasing that excitement, having fun, and also not taking things so seriously where you start to restrict your own artistry.
Mhm.
And in terms of like opportunities or limitations, I think one big thing that I've been very lucky about was I kind of was able to establish a career within the world of house music, but house music can be so broad that I felt very free to explore different types of house music, like tech house, deep house, techno, disco-y stuff. And I feel like I just kept on pushing that sort of boundary of like what was possible. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just crazy because, I think there's many times where people might be confused at first about something I'm doing, but I never really minded that because anyone who is confused, anyone who is so uh, unhappy with the curveballs, I feel like that person just might not be the right person to, you know, enjoy my show.
Mhm. Yeah.
And, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. But the people who do love that freedom, it's like, I feel like we're a great fit,
Mhm.
so like, if you're open-minded, then let's throw a party together and have some fun. And yeah, I mean, just to circle back on when it comes to opportunities, I mean, it's just so crazy because yeah, like in the past year, I've been able to DJ with some of my like favorite European DJs, who are just super cool and underground, who
Hmm.
most of us might not have heard of. Um, I DJed with these people like Kessler and Chippy Nonstop are two who come to my mind who, they're just such cool, talented artists who are really genre pushing and just incredible. And then from people like that to like John Summit and Zed's Dead and Skrillex and Grizz and like all these big EDM people. And it's just funny because I just like to play songs and have fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy where the unexpected places that music can take you when you really just follow your heart and do what makes you happy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like I really admire artists that are like you and they're more like genre fluid because I feel like it gives you more opportunity to like not only like hone in on your craft but learn more and build onto it because you're like learning all these new different ways of like incorporating other elements and stuff like that. So I really admire that. It's really cool.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
but also, so with the upcoming relaunch of your label, Fantastic Voyage, can you elaborate a little bit on your decision to create your own label and the brand that you're trying to establish around it?
Yeah. So I started the label quite a while ago with some of my friends from college. And the initial idea was just inspired by the fact that my friends are making this awesome music that wasn't getting signed. And it was like, why not put it out ourselves? And then we all started exploring, singing and performing live. And the label became really just a place for artists to put out whatever they wanted to put out, like a place with no rules, no limits. And, especially during COVID, we put out everything from like really weird experimental jazz to like and bass to techno to, R&B and whatever. And especially during COVID, that felt like a really amazing kind of like sort of approach. Um, but I feel like in the past few years, I feel like I've gotten really inspired by, once again, like things that are happening in Europe. And and I think that's what really sort of began to, I don't know, make me consider a new chapter. And the tipping point was becoming friends with this artist whose name is Gusted. His real name's Danny. And he is a student at Boulder, the
Mm.
CU in Colorado. And we became friends from a funny, like, frat party after party where Disco Lines had just done a big show at the Boulder Theater and we'd become friends. And he was like, Justin, I'm DJing like a frat after party. Do you want to pull up and go back to back? And I was like, I'm down. And, I was playing like all this UKG and techno and stuff. And Gusted, he hadn't released any music, but he was, I think, a sophomore. And, I'm playing all this music that this is maybe 2 years ago now. Um, I'm playing all this music that really was not meant for like kind of like a just like ordinary American college crowd.
Yeah.
And he knew like every song and was like putting up his phone and calling out the tracks and knew the styles of music. And he came up to me after and we met and he was awesome. And then maybe 2 months later, he had a trance techno remix blow up on TikTok.
Of course.
It was just like so crazy. And we started making music together. And when that record went viral for him, it was a really big deal for his overall mindset because take he really started to not take yeah, he really did start to take music seriously. And that was really cool to just, see someone who really like reminded me of myself, honestly, like having signed my first records when I was in college. And we began this really beautiful friendship where it was like, we shared this like passion and then he was taking it so seriously and I would kind of like poke at it and be like, dude, you don't need to take it this seriously. Cause I took it way too seriously when I was just starting out as well. And the more that we can have fun, I just feel like the better. But anyways, Danny, Gusted, he ended up showing me all of this music that really inspired me and vice versa. And he's played a big part in helping shape my vision for this new chapter of Fantastic Voyage. And he's kind of helping me A&R and direct the creative vision. And it feels so collaborative, like we're doing it together. And it's so cute because it's kind of like, like some sort of weird, like, I don't know, there's like this weird symmetry between how it started and this new chapter. And in terms of getting a little bit more focused with the musical direction, I feel really inspired because I think I'm going from like a chaotic chapter into one that is still chaotic, but more like focused within this like lane of hard groove, techno trance. Dubstep does seem to keep on sneaking in there, but UKG, even just house music. And yeah, it's all, I feel like the last thing I'll say about the label, it's like during COVID, it really became like no rules because I wasn't performing anywhere. And now that I'm DJing all the time again, I feel like I really want the label to reflect what what me and my friends are excited to DJ and have it be very connected to the dance floor, as well as still connected to like a good song that makes you feel things. So that's the long-winded answer.
We love organized chaos. That's what it's turned into though, which is good.
100%.
So now that you're fresh off your European tour and you had a recent run in Denver with Zed's Dead. So what were some highlights from your time on the road, and were there any shows that stood out as particularly significant?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I feel like I've spent a large part of this year feeling like I'm a student again, kind of like learning so much, both as a producer and as a DJ. It's funny because I spent a good chunk of the first half of the year making music with different dubstep artists in the US and kind of going a little deeper into that world. Like I released some music on Zed's Dead's label. And then the second half of the year going to Europe and making music with all of these amazing techno artists. It's just been really interesting. And I think Europe is it's like almost it's kind of consistently been a few years ahead of the US musically, it feels like. And yeah,
I
it's
agree
just
with you.
yeah, and it's been so inspiring to be there and to feel how a song that you might discover on SoundCloud actually feels when you're on the dance floor and everyone's dancing. And I think like one of the craziest things is just like when it comes to this kind of music that I'm into, like the hard groove trance stuff, groovy techno, people just dance to it in a way that's completely unlike anything in the US. It's like to me, it feels like a completely different type of dancing because it's really fast, but it's not super aggressive. So, because in Europe, the biggest style of music for the past like year and a half, 2 years has been like hard techno, which is like, and everyone, it's like super intense. And the stuff I'm interested in Europe is this groovier stuff where it's still fast, but it's not as aggressive. What people do is they're just like bouncing and they're just like bouncing. And it's like it's so cool and fun. And, you know, some of my favorite shows, I feel like one of them was I went back to back with this friend of mine, Gusted, in Berlin at a really cool party. And it was like sunrise, and the space we were in was almost like a greenhouse where there was like a glass ceiling, and like it was just like beautiful, and the crowd was so bouncy and so fun. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just excited to kind of bring that energy back to the US. I think it was also funny because I played dubstep there, and I literally had like, a lot of my European friends are like don't do it. People are going to hate it. And then I did it and everyone loved it and had a great time. But there were people who were confused also.
Oh yeah, no, I love the faces when you look around in the crowd and some like I was at a John Summit show we for Soulshine and he played a dubstep song and something and everybody was like all the all the college boys had no idea what to
Oh,
do.
love that.
But so over the course of your career, aside from this tour, what moments have made you feel like you're heading in the right direction in both your life and career? And have there been any moments that made you feel the opposite and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's this famous quote from a guy named Joseph Campbell. Um, and it's like his biggest piece of life advice, and it's to follow your bliss. And which sounds like super cheesy, but there's so much wisdom behind it because your bliss being like, that feeling of just like, oh, this is awesome. When you follow that feeling, it sort of takes you where you're meant to go, whether you can predict it or not. So, for me, it's like, you know, I feel like part of the reason why DJs like Skrillex and John Summit have been excited to DJ with me, I think is in part because I just like to DJ music that makes me happy. And so I have a lot of fun. And yeah, I feel like I never leaned into this type of music so that I could DJ with these like superstar artists. But it's just like it ends up happening and it's like, whoa, that was fun. And you know, it's I don't know. I feel like that's as an artist, it's all just about being yourself, being authentic and expressing what you're feeling. And yeah, I just think the more that I lean into that, the better. And I think there's times in my career where maybe um, where doing that has maybe felt really scary, and maybe it's taken some time for me to build up the courage to do that. And I think those would be the more challenging moments. Like when I first decided to try singing on my music and to try singing in front of people, so scary, but ultimately so rewarding. And yeah, I think the same thing is true. Like, yeah, like over the weekend, playing like really experimental techno to like the dubstep kids and
Mhm.
like seeing them, some of them really confused, but then seeing so many of them like have a really nice time and getting so many, messages or people coming up to me after being like, that was so cool and so fun. And yeah, I just feel like, just got to do what makes you happy as an artist and not give up and just keep on doing it. And also not being afraid to like, yeah, learn new things, try new things, just explore. Um, and the more I feel like you do all those things, just this can be like an endlessly fun, stimulating journey. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, love it so much.
Yeah. Well, I know that you love it and it's like and you obviously have so much fun doing it, but while with your major tour coming up surrounding your new album, how do you stay grounded mentally while on tour? And do you have any advice for upcoming DJs and producers in the early stages of their career on maintaining good mental health while navigating the touring life?
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to just take care of yourself. Sleep. I feel like that's the biggest one. Making sure you're getting enough sleep is super important. Diet, exercise, and then balance. I think a lot of artists early on, myself included, if you experience a lot of success, you can get so many opportunities to perform and travel and just wear yourself out. And it's really important to say no to things because a lot of people can feel like, they have to say yes because the opportunities will just disappear. Yeah, I think the more you can avoid a scarcity mindset and just trust that you can say no to things and there will be things in the future for you, I think that's really, excuse me, really powerful. And I think it's super true because if you get burnt out because you say yes to everything, then there will be no future. But if you
Hmm.
say no to things so that you can have a more sustainable, you know, work life balance and keep on making music, keep on enjoying everything, then things will therefore continue. So I think that's really big. And, I think family, community, really, really powerful as well. Just, to have people who, are there for you when you're not feeling good, people who will be honest with you when maybe you're not acting right and maybe there's room for improvement on your end. I feel like that's really important too. And yeah, and just, have fun and not take it all so seriously. So important.
Yeah, for sure. So before I get into my last question, I just wanted to see, is there any like up and coming artists or any like DJs or anything that are inspiring you right now that everybody should check out?
Totally. Yes. Okay, so, huge shout out to my friend Gusted. Huge shout out to our dear friend Miha, who I've just been making a bunch of music with. Me, Danny, and Miha all did a month together in Berlin. I feel like kind of sort of all showed each other new music and inspired each other and collaborated in different ways. In terms of new up and coming artists, it's crazy how big Australia really is. Just to list off some people who've been really inspiring to me from Australia: Ollie Leishman, Ned Bennett, Sam Alfred, uh, this guy Only With You. Um, Australia is insane right now. It's just crazy things are happening there. Some other cool artists that I'm really excited about from the UK. This dude, Faster Horses, is really cool. One of my former music students, like I, teach people how to make music. This kid, Dusty Dan, absolutely killing it. He played a festival in Croatia, in the same at the same venue the week after me. I was like, yes, let's go. One of my other former students, this girl, Jackie Hollander, so crazy. She actually just got signed by my agent and she's playing Outside Lands this summer. She's so talented and doing all these shows with Gorgon City. Um, let's see who else has been really inspiring to me. Um, I feel like there's just so much. But yeah, shout out Alex Wilcox. He's a really good friend of mine and he's awesome. Danny Goliger also. Um, Shout out my friend Ms. Megan. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like I could go on forever, but there's probably a billion people. Yeah.
That's super
Like
cool. I'm
that's
always looking for new artists and stuff, so I'm definitely gonna have to check some of these out. But
so
so lastly at Moon Landing, we always try to practice gratitude. So what is something that you're grateful for right now, whether in your career or in your personal life?
yeah. Well, right now I'm grateful to have a little bit of a break so that I can spend time with my family, uh, with my girlfriend, just focusing on health stuff. That's really, really amazing. Yeah, or just also, I have this community of artists who, I sort of teach and very grateful to have some time to reconnect with them and put more energy into this amazing group of people where we've, I feel like so many friendships have been born between me and these and my students, but also between themselves. And it's just like, oh, it's been just such a beautiful part of my life since I started teaching during COVID. And that's something I'm really grateful for. Yeah. Yeah, just it's yeah, grateful to be going to Europe and still being able to come back and have both. Because Europe is so inspiring and but also it's so important to be home and get quality time with loved ones. But yeah, just and grateful, just so grateful to be having fun. It's like
Oh
because
yeah.
yeah, when it's so easy to feel so much pressure doing music and this and that and yeah, like really had you're catching me off. Just such a fun weekend.
Hmm.
Saw so many like old friends and made so many new friends and just had a blast. So Yeah, grateful for this chat as well, Savannah. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
grateful to be talking to you too. And it is so evident in like your videos and stuff on Instagram and like I've seen your performances that you are there having a great time, the big smile
Yeah,
on your face. So that's
that's
always super
good.
cool to see.
Oh,
But well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. It was a pleasure to learn more about you, your music, and the exciting things you have in the works. So this is the Launchpad, hosted by Moon Landing. Again, my name is Savannah Paget, and we've been speaking today with the talented Justin J. And thank you for listening. Thanks for being here, Justin.
thank you so much.